in case anyone misses, they can still watch.
I can probably only do till about 8 o'clock. And then I have things here in the house I have to do.
Mhm.
But I'll go back and watch the video too, what I missed.
Welcome, everyone. It's good to see everyone's faces. Thanks for finding the time to join us tonight. I'm Olga Scher. I'm board chair of Antinanco. We are a small grassroots nonprofit based in New Jersey, working on educational and environmental and indigenous projects. American Chestnut Project is one of our bigger projects. We've been at it for 3 years now, and I just wanted to introduce our team. We have here Joe Resch, who is our project coordinator and managing director. Lauren Crum, she's the Green Initiatives Outreach Coordinator. You may have corresponded with her already when you were RSVPing for the events, and Eric Peters, who is our wonderful volunteer, very closely involved with the project also. So we've been planting trees in the public areas of New York and New Jersey for the last 3 years. And the American chestnut tree is a magnificent tree that is functionally extinct, unfortunately. So our effort is about reviving the tree and trying to strengthen the resistance and bring it back to our forests. And Joe can speak a little more about that in a few minutes. What I do want to mention before I hand it over to him is if you see the group chat window, you will see some resources in there, and we have quite a bit of information that we can offer, especially if you have kids or students in the household. We have a project website that has our schedule, all of the upcoming planting events and inspections, and it also has a page with resources for kids and lesson plans and games and all kinds of materials. Planting instructions, so please feel free to check it out. Use the materials. There's a lot of great information in there. We also have an undergraduate course coming up next year. That's what we're working on. So if there are any students who are interested in taking any environmental science content, please reach out to us and we can talk about that, how they can satisfy their credit requirements with us. If you have any questions, just feel free to unmute yourselves and ask anytime. This is very casual. We don't have any official format. This is really, the goal is to prepare for the next weekend planting. We wanted to share all of the details with you. But if you do want to learn more about the tree itself and the history and the problems and what's happening, in the chat, again, I posted a recording from our webinar from last year where we cover all of that. So you can always just you know, go to that recording and get all of the background information. So Joe, I'll let you talk a little bit about, you know, maybe a little more detail about the project itself and then about the next Sunday event. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Olga. And thank you for posting those resources also. That's quite quite handy. That's going to be more material than I can cover talking through right now, but I'll give you a broad overview. Um, so we decided several years ago that we wanted to plant trees. And so as we were discussing, what trees should we plant? Um, the question that came up in my mind was, well, what tree needs the most help that we could maybe make a difference for? So, reason that the American chestnut was chosen, obviously, is because it's functionally extinct. There are some surviving in the wild. There are actually some surviving genetics of parent trees that still produce nuts. So that allows natural selection to still have a chance to happen, but it kind of needs help, needs a kickstart. And there are organizations that are working to make, a genetically modified tree and make a hybrid tree with the Chinese. And kind of our approach that we've refined um, our methods to is we want to help preserve the resistant genetics as much as we can and get those growing in as many places locally as possible so that we can have, that resource of more resistant native genetics in the future for whatever purpose that it's needed for. And as well as it's a great food source for humans and for wildlife, so it'd be wonderful to get this tree back, into the dominant part of the forest again. Our trees are seedlings that we'll be planting. They're really not that big. It's not too labor intensive, easy to do with a group of kids, adults, pretty much any ages. I had at the first planting, my daughter planted one, and I think she was maybe 9 at the time. The trees are a year or two old, and they're maybe about a foot roughly tall. So you can imagine the hole's not too big that we have to dig. I actually do kind of prep the holes a little bit first, so it's a little easier, especially when we're in rocky soil. But what we would be doing is planting the trees bare root into the soil and adding some companion plants with them. Now, as you know, a forest isn't just one type of tree. It'd be, wonderful to have a stand of just all chestnuts, but there's got to be other components as well. And we are, in many of these cases, putting them in habitats that already have some good ecology going already. The column-style space that we are going to be planting at is actually a pretty well-established forest that contains some old original American chestnuts that are resprouting from their roots, as well as oaks, hickories, and other herbaceous plants that naturally occur with them. So in determining what to add in, to the planting site of what would be of benefit to the trees is something that's going to either add a nutrient in that will help the trees or bring some beneficial insects in to help keep the balance and maybe prevent any major pest issues since we're not going to be out there spraying them all the time. So we primarily choose nitrogen fixing leguminous herbaceous plants, so perennials such as Baptisia, Lespedisia. We have native species of these that will occur sometimes in woodland border areas, definitely in meadows in both PA and New Jersey. There's the tick trefoil, there's Desmodium, which is another one in the clover family. So there's a variety. We actually have a list maybe in one of the links here of what specifically we're going to have, but we'll be adding to the planting site maybe 100 different, well, not different, but 100 little baby companion plants along with the trees, planted in close enough proximity to help them out. And these are, little plugs or quart-sized perennial plants, so they're pretty easy to get in, not much disruption to the environment. We don't have to make, a large mess getting these guys in, and it makes the planting go nice and quick with a group. Now we will be sheltering the chestnuts from deer. That is a major issue. We do have some tree tubes that help with that we'll be bringing, and we'll give an explanation on how those work. The other awesome species that we're adding in for the first time with this planting is the Asimina triloba, or pawpaw tree, and that is an understory tree that is a great producer of food. It's native to our forests here. Most of them have been wiped out. Also, they're not threatened with extinction or anything. There's really no disease concerns for those trees. It's just the habitats where they used to live have been developed into either farm fields or, housing development. And so the tree doesn't really have much space. We're going to add a few of those into the forest as well. Numbers wise, 25 chestnuts, 25 pawpaws, roughly, we're adding, plus the little perennials to help them get a little kickstart of, nitrogen and some flowers for the birds and bees. Pawpaws are not quite going to help the chestnuts directly with nitrogen or anything like that, but the value here is we have another species to learn about and get into the forest, reintroduce it, and hopefully have a food source for the critters and for us years down the road if we go to visit the park again. Which brings me to our fundraiser. We actually were able to come across an excess of pawpaw seeds and seedlings this year. So we're going to be planting them in several different sites, but we have enough to offer to the public also to help spread these trees out. It takes two for pollination, but we're going to be offering 2 of the baby pawpaws if any of the volunteers or attendees of the park would like to add those to their own yard and maybe get some, good edible. These fruits actually have fat and carbohydrates in them. Some good edible fruit into their yards. It's $20 for 2 trees, and they're very easy to plant, very easy to take care of if you put them in the right spot. The deer generally don't touch them. There's not really any pest issues, other than there's a swallowtail butterfly that likes to rear on them, which is a good thing actually. If I'm remembering correctly, it might be the giant swallowtail. You might want to double check me on that, but it was a pretty cool one from what I remember. So that's what we'll be planting. We'll have plenty of extra pawpaw trees to offer if anybody wants any. We're actually going to be having some other events coming up this fall related to the project as well. Just an overview, our first planting is at Column Sile, or Column Keel, I think they're calling it now. And our second planting is actually going to be at South Branch Preserve in New Jersey. That's by Mount Olive. And we've already planted some chestnuts there before. This time we're adding chestnuts, pawpaws, and a few persimmons to add that native food tree element in a little more richly. But Olga mentioned the field course. If there's any interest in that, that's going to be quite detailed into forestry and also the American chestnut and how disturbances like disease, chestnut's a good example of that, can help change the evolution of the forest and the succession. So one final event that I'd like to mention, if there is any interest, especially for students who would like to accumulate some community hours, we'll be having tree inspections this fall. And that will be for the trees that we've already planted at 3 different sites in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. We actually go out there quarterly every year and we give the trees whatever care they need, whether it's pruning any dead or limbs that are growing the way they shouldn't be, fertilizing, measuring, and tracking the health of them. And that's important so we can see which trees have the best resistance. There's no guarantee that every chestnut that we plant is going to make it. We give them all the best love and intent that we can when we put them in the ground. And we'll be adding a little extra magic this time too, because I found a mycorrhizal inoculant that we're going to be dipping the roots into and giving it some beneficial fungi to, help it be a little bit stronger and healthier and hopefully grow better with the blight around. So we'll be measuring the growth. We'll be tracking the progress, which trees do better. Hopefully they all make it. We've actually planted over 100 trees so far, and the majority of them are doing well. We have had some with blight already, and out of the ones with blight, the majority of those are either living with it or healing so far. So pretty good. One thing I guess that I'll add about the sources of our seeds, we're getting them from various sources. So there's trees in Wisconsin. There's some actually in Pennsylvania from a stand that were resistant. Different sources we've got the seedlings from, so we are testing different genetics in the field. And let's see. Am I missing anything on the events, Olga?
No, that's a pretty thorough overview. Thank you so much, Joe. We do have events happening throughout the year, not just tree planting, many other projects as well, many of them hands-on. If you want to follow the schedule, the easiest way would be to visit our website. We also have an option to sign up for announcements, and we try to send out announcements about our upcoming events regularly. So that's a good way to stay in the loop on that. And again, we have good opportunities for students who need to satisfy their volunteer hours or community service hours. So we offer that to all of the students also. I just wanted to go over a little bit over the flow of the day next Sunday. When we all get to the park, the event will be happening in two groups. You probably know by now which group you're in. The first group will start at 8 a.m. and finish at around 12, and then the next group will commence at 2. The reason why we're doing it that way is because of the COVID restrictions on the size of the groups. And if you are in group 1, feel free to stay after the formal hours and just explore the park. The park is beautiful. If you're not familiar with it, you're welcome to stay and do things on your own. That's not a problem. If you have a shovel that you can bring, that would be great. We do have some extras. We're not sure if we have enough for everyone since we're expecting quite a few people this time. Gloves, if you prefer to work in gloves. Maybe a snack, because again, because of the COVID restrictions, we are not doing a potluck this time. So everyone is doing their own lunch or snack or whatever they need to have to keep themselves full and energized. Plenty of water, as always, when the physical work is involved. I think that's pretty much it, right?
I think so. Warm clothes if it ends up being, a chilly morning. We're getting some of those now.
All right. If there are any questions, but please feel free to ask or type, whatever is easier for you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heidi. I am the, how are you? Thank you for inviting me. I'm the president of the Kiwanis Club of Mount Olive. So my understanding is that our date is October 24th. Is that still correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. I thought so. We're here, so I'm asking.
That's awesome.
So the information that you talked about for this Sunday's event, I'm going to assume is similar to what we need for the 24th.
Yes.
Okay.
Mine is
And
the group situation.
that's what I was going to say. Once, once I'm able to give you numbers or you'll get them from your other sources, I understand that part. But I wrote down like the basic stuff that will be the same, like, snacks, water, shovels, gloves, and the trees and all of that information, which is wonderful. I literally just forgot my other question. It was good.
Anytime it comes to you, it's okay.
It's all right. Yeah.
Well, this wasn't it. But the area where we're planting, is that near our community garden? Am I correct about that?
It's not far from it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's right along the river? Is that what I was understanding?
Yes. The place where we were planting the chestnuts is the field that, was planted with the native pollinator plants.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the opposite side of the road.
Fording the river. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. That's exciting. So let me ask you, when you talked about opportunities for volunteers that you're like doing the tracking, what other areas have you worked in New Jersey? Just because I have the Mount Olive Key Club that we sponsor, but I also teach in Morristown. So I'm still connected to the Morristown Key Club. And I'm always trying to work on getting students to volunteer, particularly with our science teachers. So I'm just wondering, do you have connections with any of the teachers at the Morristown or Mount Olive High School in terms of science students?
No.
We do not. We work with a group who offers STEM education in Jersey City. Right. That would probably be the closest location to you guys at this point.
Okay. So, and that's really where I like making connections. And so our director of STEM is a really good friend of mine in Morristown. So I was just thinking of sharing some of your information with him, because I think it's just a nice way to connect students and get them out doing stuff in the community, doing those volunteer hours like you mentioned, and all those circles, interact
Absolutely.
with each other.
Thank you so much. That would be great.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
when I hear stuff like this, my ripples just start to go, which is why I lost my train of thought for a second. I knew it would come back.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I'll definitely do that both in Mount Olive and in Morristown.
Great. Thank you so much, Hattie.
You're
and
welcome.
I just, I posted our email, info@Antinanco. So with any information or questions or anything you'd like to share.
Great.
Please.
Perfect.
Yeah, if it comes to you later, you can just send it that way.
And you can let them know about our high school field course as well.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to actually go on the website because sometimes it works better in reverse. So if I get the information and then I can share it, I'll get it from you and then I'll pass it on the other way.
Awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Great.
The course outline is there now, so you can get like a gist of the curriculum from that.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. Thank you. Is there anything else that you would need from me in preparation for? I know that you'll let me know, Lauren, when it gets closer. You're great at communicating. I appreciate it. We just had our meeting on Thursday, our Kiwanis meeting. So with COVID and with school starting a little bit later and just the challenges of some kids hybrid, some in school, some virtual, we're trying to get everybody, we're just trying to make it work and move forward. So I'm actually glad that we don't have this date until October, because by then, by the 1st, when you need your numbers, I should be good. Okay. I did another meeting on Friday night, and so I really just need to get follow-up from the club so I can get numbers for you. So just so you know where I'm at at that stage. And then the rest of it, on our end, it's all going to fall into place. It's going to be wonderful.
No worries. I don't think there are many limitations.
Is it something that I can open up to the rest of our community?
That's up to Joe and Olga.
Yeah, I don't see why not. For the Mount Olive planting, I think we're fine, right, Joe? We do have, how many trees do we have for that planting? Not that many, right? It's going to be a smaller planting. So we just want to make sure we give the opportunity to the students to participate hands-on. Yep. So if we do run into a problem of having too many, maybe we will just need to have like a few people working on one planting spot. If hopefully it
Sure.
will
Maybe a
satisfy
buddy
the,
system or something.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why I asked, and that's fine. I mean, because I could go bigger, but I don't have to if you don't want me to, if you don't need me to.
Yeah,
No,
as far as
we
the
always
people, I don't think we'll
appreciate,
have restraints.
yeah.
This was the first event at the park, the first large event that Columkeel is having since the COVID came out, you know, so we're kind of easing into it and trying
Yeah.
not to be huge numbers, you know, for their sake too.
Sure.
They don't have to worry too much, but
Well, it sounds great. Thanks everybody for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
you. I'm
Yeah, looking forward to
seeing you
meeting
there.
all of you.
Yeah, me too. It'll be great.
Glad you're coming.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Nice.
Great. All right, friends. Unless there are any other questions, we're gonna wrap up. And we'll post this recording on in our Facebook group, and we'll also email to everyone. So you will have, if you came in late, you can watch it again. If you need any information, or just reach out to us prior to ask your questions. And it's going to be fun.
Thanks everybody.
Thank
Take care.
you.
thank you all.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Can't wait to plant some trees together.
Definitely. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.